The stars gleamed like scattered diamonds across the vast expanse of space, stretching endlessly in all directions. Humanity had long since ventured beyond the confines of their homeworld, Earth, but the journey had come at a cost. Centuries of exploration had led to countless encounters, some peaceful, some far from it. The most daunting of these encounters had occurred when they first ventured beyond their own solar system, discovering that they were not alone. The Galactic Council, a coalition of alien species, had greeted humanity with suspicion, if not outright hostility. Humanity had always assumed their journey into the stars would be one of discovery and connection. They imagined forging alliances with civilizations far more advanced than their own, learning from each other, and building a future where species from across the galaxy could thrive together. But their first contact had shattered these hopes. It wasn't long before they realized they were viewed as little more than unruly, unpredictable newcomers, dangerous, impulsive, and entirely too willing to disrupt the delicate balance the Galactic Council had long maintained. Kalen had been only a young officer when the first contact went awry. He still remembered the day vividly. His squad had been dispatched to a distant outpost near the edge of Council-controlled space. It wasn't a mission driven by exploration or diplomacy. It was about establishing a boundary, a reminder to the Council that humanity had no intention of being confined to their corner of the galaxy. But as their ship drifted closer to the uncharted planet, something shifted. The air thickened with tension. "They're watching us," Kalen had whispered to his fellow officer, Lyra. The unease had crept into his voice, but neither of them fully grasped the depth of what they were walking into. It wasn't just the alien outpost they were sent to patrol. It was something far more sinister, far more personal. When their ship finally arrived, they found the outpost eerily silent. No signs of life, no distant hum of technology. Just emptiness. That was when it began. The first signal. A strange, pulsating frequency that cut through their communications like a blade. It wasn't a voice or a call, it was more like a warning. A warning they didn't understand. It was Lyra who first suggested they search the outpost. Kalen still didn't know if it had been courage or recklessness that drove her forward, but something had compelled them both to leave their ship and venture into the unknown. Inside, they encountered something beyond explanation. The outpost wasn't just abandoned, it had been decimated. The walls bore marks of a battle long since past, of something violent and relentless. But what shook Kalen the most wasn't the wreckage. It was the silence. The unnerving stillness that seemed to stretch into infinity. "What do you think happened here?" Kalen asked, his voice a faint tremor in the still air. Lyra didn't respond immediately. She was too focused on the flickering lights of their helmet displays, scanning for any signs of life, of anything that might explain what they were seeing. But there was nothing. It was then that they stumbled upon the first clue, a symbol etched into the floor, glowing faintly as if embedded in the very fabric of the metal beneath their feet. It wasn't a symbol from any known human language or alien script. It was alien, utterly foreign. But what struck them most was the sense of recognition. It felt old, ancient. As if it had existed long before humanity had ventured into the stars. They traced their fingers over it, trying to make sense of what they were seeing, but no answers came. The sensation of something watching them persisted. There were no sounds, no movement, yet Kalen couldn't shake the feeling they weren't alone. The unease had spread through their entire mission. Every corner of the outpost seemed to whisper of danger. It wasn't just the remnants of a battle they found, it was the sense that whatever had happened here wasn't over. Something had survived. Something that the Council feared. Kalen could still hear Lyra's voice, filled with determination yet laced with uncertainty. "We need to leave," she had said. But as they turned back to the ship, they both knew they were leaving with more questions than answers. It wasn't until they returned to Earth and reported their findings that the true magnitude of their encounter became clear. The Galactic Council hadn't just remained silent, it had recoiled. The first humans to venture beyond their world had stumbled upon something that had sent even the most powerful beings in the galaxy into retreat. The Council, once confident in their rule, now seemed wary of humanity. What Kalen and Lyra had stumbled upon wasn't just an old outpost, It was a warning to every species. The message was clear: no one, not even humanity, could be trusted. Something had changed in the balance of power. The Council's silence wasn't fear, at least, not for themselves, but fear for the unknown force that now watched from the shadows. And humanity had become the target of their caution. Kalen couldn't escape the feeling that something had shifted within him. The encounter on that distant outpost had left a mark, both on his mind and the fragile alliance between humanity and the Galactic Council. Back on Earth, life carried on, but the weight of what they had witnessed lingered like a dark storm on the horizon. The outpost wasn't just a memory, it was a growing question that refused to be answered. Months passed, but the silence from the Council remained deafening. Kalen often found himself haunted by what they had seen: the alien symbol, the stillness, the feeling that they were being watched. The questions were endless. What had happened there? Why had the Council reacted with such fear? And most troubling of all, what was it that humanity had unleashed? The Council's initial communication had been brief, and deliberately vague. They had issued stern warnings to humanity, urging them to stay away from certain regions of space. The messages were terse, bordering on threats. Humanity was a growing threat, the Council claimed, but no explanation was offered as to what that threat actually was. Kalen became obsessed with seeking answers, but the more he dug, the deeper the mysteries seemed to bury themselves. No records of the outpost existed in the archives. No official reports confirmed its destruction, nor the strange symbol they had discovered. It was as if the entire encounter had been erased from history. Frustration festered within Kalen. He couldn't understand why the Council would withhold information, why they wouldn't share the truth. Humanity had always been positioned as part of the Galactic Council, albeit as a latecomer, but now, they seemed to be viewed as something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something unknown. "I don't think they're afraid of us," Kalen confided in Lyra one night, as they stared out at the stars from a quiet observation deck. "Not afraid of humanity itself. But whatever we stumbled upon out there, it's something they've never dealt with before." Lyra didn't answer immediately. She looked troubled, her gaze fixed on the distant constellations beyond the glass. "It doesn't make sense," she finally said. "Why ignore it? Why keep us in the dark? We're not just another species to them anymore," Kalen said, his voice carrying the weight of his growing doubts. "We've become something they fear." But what neither Kalen nor Lyra could fully grasp was just how deep that fear ran. The Council had long maintained peace by keeping the boundaries between species intact. Each species had their own territories, their own rules, and their own understanding of the galaxy's order. Humanity, however, had crossed into regions unknown, regions that even the Council didn't fully comprehend. It wasn't long before Kalen realized they weren't just dealing with the Council's fear. They were dealing with something far more dangerous than he had initially thought. One evening, a transmission from the Council arrived unexpectedly, broadcasted directly to Kalen's secure channels. The message was short and chilling. "Humanity must cease all exploration beyond designated zones. You've disturbed forces we do not understand, and you risk destabilizing the fragile balance of the galaxy." Kalen stared at the screen, his stomach twisting in knots. The Council didn't mention the outpost, nor the symbol, but the message was clear. They wanted humanity to stop digging, to retreat and leave the unknown forces untouched. But Kalen couldn't accept that. He couldn't ignore what they had seen. "You can't leave it alone," Lyra warned him later that night. They were in a secure room now, far from prying eyes. "Whatever we found out there, it's more dangerous than they're letting on." Kalen leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "But what choice do we have? If they're right, if these forces are as powerful as they fear—" "We didn't cause this," Lyra interrupted. "We didn't ask for this. But if we don't figure out what it is, they'll do whatever they can to stop us." That thought hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. The Council's silence had never been more deafening, their warnings more ominous. Kalen and Lyra could feel the tension building, not just between humanity and the Council, but between every species in the galaxy. Something was brewing beneath the surface, a storm they couldn't control. Days turned into weeks, and Kalen couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The strange frequency from the outpost had begun appearing in his dreams. The symbols, they haunted his thoughts, taunting him with their mystery. Whatever the Council feared, humanity had stumbled into its web, and now they were trapped. And then, one day, something unexpected happened. A signal, faint and distant, flickered onto Kalen's console. It wasn't human. It wasn't Council. It was something entirely alien. A message, broken and distorted, but unmistakably directed at humanity. Do not trust the Council, the signal warned. You've only seen the surface. There are forces beyond comprehension. The true danger is coming. Kalen's breath hitched as he stared at the screen. The message had no origin, no traceable source. Yet its arrival seemed to mark a turning point. Humanity wasn't just dealing with the unknown. The unknown was now dealing with them. The message burned itself into Kalen's mind, refusing to fade away. Whoever, or whatever, it was, had sent a warning meant for humanity. But what did it mean? What danger was coming? Kalen couldn't ignore it, no matter how much he wanted to. The line between ally and enemy had blurred beyond recognition, and the stakes had never been higher. With each passing day, Kalen found himself increasingly consumed by the threat that loomed over humanity. The Council's silence wasn't just a refusal to explain, it was fear. Fear of something they couldn't control. Fear of a force far beyond their own power. And now, humanity had become a pawn in a game neither side fully understood. Kalen couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something far worse than any battle they had fought before. His once clear path had become murky, filled with shadows and unknowns. The outpost, the strange symbol, the warning from beyond, they weren't coincidences. They were pieces of a larger puzzle, one that Kalen had no choice but to solve. I can't sit here and wait, Kalen told Lyra one night, his voice sharp with determination. If the Council knows something, we have to find out what it is before it's too late. Lyra nodded, her expression tense. We can't trust the Council. Not anymore. They're hiding something. Kalen agreed. The silence from the Council had grown deafening, but it wasn't apathy that fueled it, it was fear. And fear, Kalen had learned, was the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Together, they began digging deeper into the Council's secrets. What they discovered was more terrifying than they had ever imagined. The Council had kept humanity isolated for a reason. They had uncovered a force that threatened the very fabric of the galaxy's order, a force that seemed to exist beyond time, beyond comprehension. Kalen and Lyra's investigations led them to ancient texts, encrypted files, and even whispered rumors from old explorers who had vanished without a trace. Every piece of information they unearthed pointed to something ancient, something powerful, that had long since been forgotten. The stories were consistent, though fragmented. Tales of an ancient entity, a force that had existed before the Galactic Council itself. A force that had once ruled the galaxy but had vanished into the void, leaving behind only remnants of its power. These remnants, Kalen realized, were what the Council had feared all along. They call it the Forgotten Order, Lyra said one night, her voice shaking as she read through the ancient texts. A race that was neither human nor alien. A force that wielded powers no one could comprehend. And when they vanished, they left behind something far worse. Kalen felt his stomach twist. A force that vanished, but didn't really disappear. The Forgotten Order wasn't just a myth. It was a forgotten chapter of the galaxy's history, a chapter the Council had buried, terrified of its return. And now, humanity had uncovered something that had awakened the echoes of that ancient past. The Council had grown silent because they had become desperate. The balance they had maintained for centuries was crumbling, and Kalen and Lyra had stumbled into a web of forces far beyond their understanding. The outposts, the symbol, they were signs of the Forgotten Order, remnants of something they couldn't control. It wasn't just the Council that feared the return of the Forgotten Order. Every species in the galaxy now found themselves entangled in a conflict they didn't fully grasp. The once quiet expanse of space had become a battlefield of unknowns. The balance of power had shifted. As Kalen stared at the data streaming from the ancient files, a chilling thought crossed his mind. What if the warning wasn't meant for the Council, or for him? It was meant for humanity as a whole. What if the danger wasn't distant, but imminent? He knew one thing for certain: they couldn't afford to remain passive any longer. The forces they had awakened weren't just dangerous, they were inevitable. And humanity was now at the center of it all. Kalen stood on the bridge of the old warship, his gaze fixed on the stars stretching out before him. The once peaceful silence of space had been replaced by a haunting quiet, filled with unanswered questions and looming dangers. The Council had long since retreated into the shadows, leaving humanity to fend for itself. But Kalen and Lyra knew the truth: whatever was coming couldn't be ignored any longer. The warning from beyond had driven them forward, but the reality of the threat was far more terrifying than they had imagined. The Forgotten Order wasn't just a relic of the past, it was awakening. Its echoes reverberated through the galaxy, bringing with it a storm that neither humanity nor the Council could control. Lyra stepped onto the bridge, her expression worn but resolute. "We can't hide from this anymore, Kalen. The Council won't help us, and the Forgotten Order won't stop unless we make them." Kalen nodded, his jaw tightening. "They've awoken something no one can comprehend. But if we don't act, we're walking into extinction." They had spent countless hours deciphering the ancient texts, poring over the scattered fragments of forgotten knowledge. The Forgotten Order wasn't just a force of destruction, they were something far beyond simple conquest. Their powers defied logic, and they seemed to exist beyond time, bending the very fabric of reality itself. The symbol they had found on the outpost was more than a warning, it was a mark of the Forgotten Order's return. "I don't think we can defeat them," Kalen admitted, his voice heavy. "But we can't let them control us either." Lyra clenched her fists. "Then what do we do? Run and hide? Let the Council dictate our future?" "No," Kalen said, determination flaring in his eyes. "We've already lost control, but that doesn't mean we surrender. We need to fight back. Not with weapons, but with what makes us human." He turned to face her fully, his expression firm. "Our strength isn't in technology or military power. It's in our ability to adapt, to think differently, to be creative when others rely on fear." Kalen had seen enough of the Council's tactics. They relied on order, hierarchy, and suppression. The Forgotten Order thrived on chaos, on the belief that strength came from fear and control. But Kalen and Lyra had seen another side of humanity. One that wasn't confined by rules or restrictions. One that had survived against impossible odds and always managed to find a way forward. The first step, Kalen realized, was not to fight the Forgotten Order directly, but to outthink them. The galaxy had grown stagnant under the Council's rule, their obsession with balance and order leaving no room for innovation. But humanity had always thrived on the fringes, surviving by pushing boundaries and defying expectations. That's where their strength lay. Kalen's voice softened as he spoke to Lyra, the weight of his conviction clear. "We need to become something they didn't anticipate. Something unexpected. They expect us to fight with brute force, with the technology we've developed. But what if we fight in ways they can't comprehend?" Lyra studied him for a moment before responding. "You're saying we need to outmaneuver them. But how?" Kalen took a deep breath, his mind racing with possibilities. "We've been focused on the surface, on the outposts, the symbols, the old myths. But what if the Forgotten Order isn't just a physical threat? What if they feed off fear, confusion, and ignorance? What if they've already won by forcing the Council into silence?" "That's exactly what they want," Lyra said, realization dawning. "They've turned us into their puppets." Kalen nodded. "We have to disrupt that. Not through force, but by breaking the cycle of fear. If we expose the truth, if we show the galaxy that we're not afraid of what they've hidden, maybe we can weaken them. Strip away the power they draw from silence and secrecy." It wasn't going to be easy. The Council had long sought to keep humanity isolated, warning them away from the unknown. But Kalen knew now that ignorance wasn't protection, it was vulnerability. They had to take risks, risks that others wouldn't dare. Kalen and Lyra set their course, not toward safety, but toward the heart of the galaxy's mysteries. The forgotten knowledge, the strange symbols, and the warnings from beyond, it wasn't just a threat. It was their chance to rewrite their future. As they journeyed deeper into the unknown, Kalen couldn't shake the weight of responsibility. The Council had abandoned them, leaving humanity to face this danger alone. But Kalen realized that perhaps that wasn't such a curse after all. In being left alone, humanity had been freed from the chains of the Council's control. "We'll fight," Kalen whispered, the stars beyond the viewport stretching into infinity. "Not because we're strong, but because we have to. And when this is over, if we survive, we'll be something greater than we ever were before." Lyra smiled, a glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. "And maybe, just maybe, they'll never make the same mistake again,"